Hi, I'm Candace Felice. In this Community Life in Northeast Georgia featured podcast, for many people in the U.S., struggles with obesity are real. And in the South, where foods are smothered in rich gravies and sauces and fried to perfection from their grandmother's recipes, restraint from indulging in these rich foods can become an elusive, long-term goal. According to a recent report by the American Medical Association, recognizing obesity as a disease will help change the way the medical community tackles this complex issue, which affects approximately 1 in 3 Americans. In this first segment, we focus in on this critical reality and a young couple who chose to fight their way back to a healthier life through the motivational encouragement and training of Dacula Fitness owner and personal trainer, Scott Green. Our discussion opens with Green explaining how he began his career as a personal trainer and owner of a gym.
Scott, thank you for inviting us to come into your beautiful facility.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Scott, so what's the story for you in leading you to want to lead a healthier, happier life?
Well, I really didn't know how unhealthy I was. I never had a problem with weight, but I was the type of guy that I was really underweight. And actually, how I got into a gym is I actually broke my collarbone playing some softball, and the doc wanted me to go to rehab, and I refused. And I had a buddy says, "Hey, look, I got this gym. Come with me." And I didn't have a clue about anything, a bicep to a hamstring to anything. I just went and was just very curious, and I began to watch and began to do things. And each day that passes, I become more curious with it.
Do you find that athletes, as the years go on, is it easier for them to stay fit?
People ask me this all the time. I'm 49, and when I was 35, no, I don't train the same way. I still train hard, but I don't train the same way. And so that's what we have to realize is that we can't stop from getting old, but how we get old and how we think as we get old has a lot to do with us staying in shape or being healthy.
What led you into being a personal trainer?
Oh, my goodness. Actually, I had a confession to make. I often said that I would never train, and I certainly wouldn't train women. And so here I am, probably 75-80% of my clients are women. And actually, when I got in this, I never intended to open a gym. That was never my years of training. It was just something for me. I needed it in my life.
I spoke with Green and 2 of his clients, Wendy and Wendy Weaver from Gwinnett County, about their personal journey to a disciplined, healthier life. As glistening tears filled her violet blue eyes, Wendy opens up and shares what brought her to the wake-up call that saved her life.
I was at a point in my life where I was physically unable to do my day-to-day activities. I was in the hospital, and I had a severe bacteria in my body. And I was laying in the hospital, and they had told me that I was so overweight that they couldn't weigh me on a regular scale. And they had to take me downstairs and take me out of the hospital. And Wendell, my husband, couldn't go with me. And they had to take me outside and weigh me where the hospital brings in stock, where the trucks come. 5 security guards took me down there. And at that point in my life, right there in that moment, I knew at that point that I had to make a change. And it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, because there I was by myself with 4 men that I didn't know. And all 4 of them were standing there with me, looking at how big I was on that scale, that normal scale upstairs wouldn't weigh me. So afterwards, they weighed me and we went back upstairs, and it was 510 pounds. None of them said anything, but we got back upstairs and they left, and I looked at Wendell and I was like, that was the most embarrassing moment in my life, because there I was downstairs with 4 men that I didn't even know. And I knew at that point in my life, I knew I was overweight, but when you're downstairs with complete strangers that you didn't know, and you have to go downstairs where they bring in trucks of stock, where you have to be weighed, it was a wake-up call for me.
Wendell, what was it like for you to have to hear your beautiful wife tell this to you?
Well, I was there the night that, she was carried down to have her weight done. And honestly, at the time, we really didn't talk about it a whole lot because I knew it mortified her. I knew it did. But honestly, we were both two big people. I had just started my journey at that time, and we just really, we talked about it, but not a whole lot, because weight's always been a touchy subject. Anybody you talk to, weight's always a really, really touchy subject. And I think, watching her go through that was humbling for both of us. I've been through my own struggles with weight. I was still going through my own struggle with weight, and seeing her do that, I wanted to help her. But one thing I did do is when I started my journey with Scott, I would tell her everything I did every day when I went home, everything. Because she would ask me, what did you do today? So I'd go through my whole workout with her, and she'd listen. And she would say, well, I'm not looking to be a bodybuilder. But I knew she was curious, and she's asked me this a lot of times, but what I didn't do is say, you got to go down there and work out with Scott. I never said that to her. I never told her anything that she needed to do. All I did is did what I did every day, and anything she wanted to do, we would do. And when I lost my 100 pounds, I told her, I was like, you have to go down there with me. You need to go. So we talked her into coming down, and from there it was kind of ancient history once I got her in here. But what I didn't want to do is feel like I pushed her into it, because I think a lot of times we push people too hard. When people are ready to make the change in their life, when I was ready to make the change, I was willing to put in the work to do it. If you try to do that for somebody, they're never going to really put in the work to get it done. You got to be in the right mind frame.
And how did you come to find out about Scott and his program here?
I've known Scott for a long time. Scott and I've been in church together for a really, really long time. And I've known that Scott had the gym here. And in the back of my mind, I knew that if anybody could help me, I knew that Scott would and could. And I knew if I come up here that he would help me, but I just kept putting it off. And Wendell actually started with Scott before I did. I saw the change that Wendell was making, and at first, and I was afraid to come, honestly, because I knew that Scott would put it on me. But once I saw the change that Scott and Wendell was making in Wendell's life, I had to come because I was curious. I wanted that for myself. So I took that first step, and that's what I needed, and that's what I did.
And how long has it been for you?
I started the first week in September. I've been here ever since.
Green says the first step to living a healthier life is to first forgive yourself, because there are no quick fixes with weight loss.
Scott, take us through that first day when Wendy came here and asked you to help her as you've helped Wendell.
Well, the first day is what I expected. She was very insecure, and what you have to do, you have to learn, and Wendell will tell you his story, is that I taught them that they have to forgive themselves, okay, and like themselves again. It's real funny is when she came in here, she says, I got request, I'm not going to work out in front of a mirror. And so 2 days later, she come in, I had a bike in front of the mirror. She said, what is this? I said, you see that woman in the mirror, you're going to love her today, but also you're going to even love her more of that woman she's becoming. And that's what I try to teach here. Not only physically, but it's mentally that where people are lacking. And that's what I teach here is that. And I create an environment where Wendy could feel relax. It's okay. It's okay. And so what I do here is, and they can vouch for this, I set them down and I said, use for illustration, I put, I think, 4 pieces of peppermint candy on the table. And I put something in the middle and I said, now look, the way this will work, if you never get out of this pyramid in this environment that we create, we will get to our goal. Now, has it been a slow go? Of course it has. I don't say in 30 weeks or 40 weeks. Everybody's body's different, and everybody's is going to respond different. But I will tell them this, is that I know the mailman is going to run. I just don't know when. And it's the same way to everybody's life, okay? It ain't about losing weight. It's about getting to a place you've never been before, loving yourself. And I say this all the time. You let a woman get up and feel good about herself, she'll have an awesome day. She'll have a productive day. But she gets up and she feels insecure, she don't feel good about herself, guess what? She lives in a prison. And that's what Wendy was living in. And she has come in here and she has already inspires so many people, and she's still inspiring people. And that's what it's about. Once you reach your goal, give back. Give back.
Wendy, what was the dynamic in your relationship to food?
I just ate just to be eating. I didn't know when I was hungry. I was a stress eater. I was an overeater, and I just ate myself to death.
Take us through your first day with Scott and how it's progressed.
My first day with Scott, I thought it would be harder than it was, but I did it, and he pushed me, but I need to be pushed. But also, he's motivating, and he's the type of person that I look forward to coming in here. I've never in my life worked out in a place where I look forward to coming, and I need it. And my first day, I got through it. It was hard, and I was sore. I could barely move, but I did it, and I was proud of myself because I had worked out other places, but I didn't feel like I was pushed to my limit or to what I could do. But he pushed me, and I guess he saw something in me that he knew I could do that I didn't know that I could really do it. But he makes me see things in myself that I really can do. I used to didn't think I could do things, but now I know I can do it. And he's taught me not to apologize so much, because I used to apologize a lot.
Do you think it's more of getting into that proper headspace and allowing your heart to heal?
Yes. Yes.
Wendy Weaver. He says when he was diagnosed with sarcoidosis in 2012, this is when he sought the help and personal training expertise of Scott Green.
And Wendell, tell us about your journey and how it began.
Well, I've been big all my life. I've always carried a lot of weight, but I got sick in 2012. I was diagnosed with a disease that's called sarcoidosis. And in the midst of that disease sort of taking over my life, and I was put on a lot of steroids to kind of try to control that disease. So I went from somebody that was big to somebody that was extremely big. So I kept on putting on weight, and eventually between my weight and the sarcoidosis, it had led me to where I was out of work for about a month on disability. I couldn't even walk or get around good enough to do my job, and I was put out of work, and I knew something had to change. And I knew Scott from back where we went to church, and he was on Facebook, so I kind of kept up with his gym along the way. And me and Wendy had talked about it a few times in the past, and she kept encouraging me, you need to go up there and talk to him, you need to go up there and talk to him. And I guess when I got to that point where I couldn't even work, and I went to my doctor and I asked her, well, is it going to hurt me with everything else going on? And she said, if you can do it, do it. She said, it's not going to hurt you. Just do everything you can do. So I called Scott, and he agreed to meet with me. I came up here, and he agreed to take me on as a client. And there began a crazy journey.
Wendell, Scott was telling me before we went on the air about how when you came in your first day, his goal was for you to walk to the trash dumpster and back. Through your mind's eye, was that a mountain for you?
That was probably one of the most humbling days of my life. It was probably my first day in this gym. I knew I was bad. I knew I was out of shape. I mean, I've always been pretty athletic my whole life, and I slowly went down this journey where I was just getting worse and worse. I don't think I realized how bad I was until Scott was pushing me. And yes, so one of the first things we did is we went out the back of the gym, and he had me walk down to the end of the dumpster and back. And I made it down there. On the way back, I was holding on to every pole, everything I could find, because I didn't think I was going to make it back. Honestly, I don't think Scott thought I was going to make it back either. But yeah, I think at that point I realized, wow, I have really gotten to a point where something has got to give. And like Scott said, I couldn't do it at the time, but what I wasn't going to do is quit. So I made it up in my mind that no matter what, I would be here to do the workouts, and I'd always give it 100% every time I was here.
What was the first day like, Scott, when Wendell came into your office? Since you are friends, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
When he came into my gym, I'll never forget it. I was at the back door back there coming in, and he was standing at the counter. I recognized Wendell's face, but I didn't recognize anything else. And I seen somebody hollering for help. And Wendell had that voice, and he says, hey, can you help me? And I'll never forget it, And, first thing that runs through your mind is that, you just don't want to throw something out there, and like a lot of people do, is just say things to be saying it, And I have to really be careful being a trainer, is because I want people to know that when I say something, I mean it. I just don't say it to get your business or to get another session from you. I want to say it because I want to be encouraging to know that I mean it. So I told him, I said, Wendell, I can help you. And then, it was a crazy journey. It's because I tell everybody, Wendell's was unique. Not only was he so overweight, is that his health problems. And there were so many obstacles in this guy's way here. He could have very easily tapped out. And everybody would have said, hey, it's okay. It's okay. But the biggest thing with Wendell, what I done is not his body. Hey, you can change a person's body. But if you don't change their way of thinking, they will go right back into it. Okay? And that's what I wanted to do with Wendell. And a lot of times, what was unique about Wendell that really inspired me is that he never got upset about anything I told him or anything like that. He always got upset and embarrassed because he couldn't do more. And I told Wendell, I said, that's all hard. And anything that we could not do, I told Wendell, let's mark it. Remember, we will come back to this, and you will do it. And I think about everything that we couldn't do, we have came back and done it. And to hear these stories that he comes back outside of the gym and to tell me that he's going back in school and how much he works and he gets so much out of the day, this guy has changed his life. And it's all because he just needed somebody there, to help him along. And he already had the heart. He just didn't realize what kind of heart he had.
Green says the Weaver's determination and commitment not only inspires him, but everyone who comes into Dacula Fitness. Again, Scott Green.
And they're just very inspiring. And now sometimes it's easy to say after you see things coming to pass, but when you're before and see that, is to get started is the biggest thing. And we live in a technology world where Google it and get it yesterday. And the body doesn't work that way. And so that was my biggest scare with them, is that if they would hang on. And both of them has faced some obstacles, but they overcome it. And now wherever I go, they'll say, hey, what about that couple you training? Hey, how's that couple you doing? Hey. And I say, they're still there. And, and I tell them all the time, we just began. This journey is far from over.
How many days a week did you come?
I've come 3 days a week since I started. I think that's about perfect because it allows me recovery time. It's been a good formula for me so far.
And what was it like when you started seeing those numbers go down on the scale?
It was pretty exciting, especially the first 100 pounds. It actually come off pretty quick. I mean, there was weeks where it was 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds a week, and it was coming off really fast. So it was really exciting, and we had the big 100-pound celebration that we did up here, and it was really cool to actually be able to do things again and see my life changing. But after that 100 pounds, it got a little tougher. Actually, it got a whole lot tougher because I think the very next month, I don't think I lost but maybe a pound or two that next month, even though I was putting in all the work. But, working with Scott every day, like he said, he works on my mind just about as much as he works on my body and the way I do things. You have to realize that your body doesn't always cooperate, but if you keep putting in the work and you keep doing what you need to do at home as well, the weight will come off. It just sometimes takes a little more time than other times. So where I lost it really quick, then it slowed down, and then it sped up, and then it slows down. So now, I see all these new people coming in here that are trying to do the workouts and everything, and I see them, they're really upset because I only lost 1 pound this week, or I didn't lose any weight this week. Well, just hang in there and don't let it stress you out, because that's the worst thing you can do is let it stress you out. You just have to take it one day at a time. And if I don't look at tomorrow and I will look at the day that's in front of me right now, then I can make it to tomorrow, and eventually we'll get there.
The Weavers say making smarter decisions in their food choices came naturally as they progressed with their training regime with green.
Scott never gave us a grocery list. He just told us that we couldn't eat anything no bigger than the palm of our hand. And he just told us to watch our sodium. And then Wendell and I just started watching our calories, and we watch our carbs. But that was just something we did on our own. Scott doesn't make us diet, but we just started watching that ourselves. And we just started making smarter choices.
Because when we first started this, we didn't know what we were doing eating. We had no clue. When I came in here and talked to Scott the first time, he told me pretty much, like he said, don't eat anything bigger than the palm of your hand. He said, try to stay away from fried foods. He said, try to stay away from canned stuff because there's a lot of sodium in it. That was pretty much it. So everything else, as a big guy, try to figure out, well, what in the world am I going to eat now? And I think slowly over time, not at first perfect, but over time we've learned that, let's have turkey burgers instead of hamburgers. Let's eat vegetables instead of fries. Let's drink water. That's all I drink is water. Since I started here with Scott, I think the first week when I wrote down, because when I first started, Scott had me write down everything I did. I tried to do Diet Cokes. Honestly, I'm against anything that's not water. I'll do protein shakes every now and then, that kind of thing, but if it's not water, I don't drink it. And I think honestly that has made the biggest change in my life, because before this process I was drinking, there's no telling how many sodas a day, juice full of sugar, sweet tea. I could drink a gallon of sweet tea a day by myself. And the liquids that we put in our body that are full of those sugars, it's amazing how much they can do harm to you. So, and really, if I want to do in a day and have less calories go to my body, if I drink 4 sodas in a day, you've already put, 800 to 1,000 calories in your body from soda, plus all the sugar. And you're just doing your body such a disservice. And plus, things like just being able to hold out doing workouts, being able to sweat properly, just being able to move, and you put that junk in your body and you can't do it. It just doesn't work. Or you can do it, but you'll never do it well.
Scott, why is it that our bodies tend to go into this up and down pattern when you're in a weight loss?
Anytime you drop your carbs or anytime you go on a low calorie, you're going to drop weight, okay? But what's going to happen eventually is that whether it be meal plans or something very strict, sooner or later you're going to come off of that. And when you come off of that, the body's like a vacuum cleaner, and it just sucks everything that it can, just real quick like. And that's how when people go on diets, for instance, we're going to the beach, okay? So I'm really cutting back what I do. And what they do, they'll drop a little bit of weight. Now, you got to realize a lot of what they drop is probably water weight, okay? And then after they get to the beach and after they reach their goal, what then? They sit back and eat, and then they'll say if they lost 15 pounds or 20 pounds. Before they know it, they have gained 20 pounds plus 10 more. And that 10 more, it gets harder to take off. And then they go on another diet. And then they're going to drop it again. But what happened is this yo-yo. What I done with Wendell and Wendy is that if they had to come in and I had to give them a meal plan or told them, say, you can't eat this, the first thing what the body does is starts craving that. They wouldn't have made it. So what I told them is, I said, okay, we're going to begin this. And they did for a few days write down what they, sometimes, if I feel like you're going in a rut, I'll have you write down what you're eating 2 or 3 times. Ink don't lie, okay? And not saying that people do, but I'm just saying ink don't lie, okay? And I told them, I said, and this is, I think it really got them too, when I told them, I said, I really don't care what you eat. If you venture off, it just matter to make sure it's still hand. So it keeps their body from stressing out. No, you cannot go around starving yourself to death. That is not how to do it. So I told them moderation, it takes longer, but this is the key. When we get to our goals, I don't have to teach them what to do because you know why? They already been taught as we go. People want to come in here all the time and say, okay, Scott, give me a meal plan. Yeah, I could do you a grocery list. You know, that was 8.5, 9 years. That's all I done was diets off and on, off and on. But you know what? You're not going to stay on it. Sooner or later, you're going to come off. And then what you're going to do? So with them, that is the great thing about it, is that one of these days it's going to quit being about the scale with them. And it's going to be about more of muscle building, more toning, more. And that's another thing, we ain't even scratched the surface yet about them. Not only have they lost weight, but you don't realize the muscle that they have put on Wendy's body is changing. Wendell's body is changing. You take somebody that does a little bit of weight training and they stay with it, people look at them, and it ain't so much they lost a lot of weight, but you would think they have. It's because they put on muscle. And that is another unique thing about Wendell and Wendy, is that the muscle that they have put in their bodies, 1 pound of fat burns only about 5. 1 pound of muscle burns about 50 a day. So that's going to also help them keep the weight off. So there again, I'm not a diet guy. I believe you clean up, but if you do diets only for a period of time, and you eventually going to go back. There's people that come to me and train with me, says, I've been on a meal plan and I've done pretty good, and they're really overweight. And if that meal plan was why didn't you stay on it? You get tired of eating grass and water. Sooner or later, guess what you're going to do? You're going to ride by Applebee's. You're going to ride by Longhorns. You are going to eat again. And you're not being honest with yourself if you don't. So they have to be taught how to live and keep this weight off every day. And you cannot do that sometimes in 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It takes a few months. But you know what? They are still losing, and they are still out there with everybody else.
Wendell says today he is not only 40 pounds from his goal weight, but he is also down to 1 daily medication. Again, Wendell Weaver.
Well, I'm down to only one thing a day that I take. I take a shot every day for my sarcoidosis. That helps me keep it in line, but I don't have to take the prednisone anymore. I don't take anything else. When I first started this, I was on high blood pressure medicine, and I was eating ibuprofen because I hurt so bad. It was just a lot of pain things that I was dealing with, plus the high blood pressure. It was just a lot. And now I take my shot every day, every other day, and we're slowly trying to work our way off of that. And I'm looking forward to being medicine-free here in the very near future. My doctor that I saw, she has just been completely blown away by not only the transformation with my disease and how it's gotten under control, but just the transformation in me and how you go through these things in life, and weight just adds so much pressure to everything. So I can't tell you that taking off the weight fixed my disease, but I can tell you it sure didn't hurt it. And I know that I'm a lot better fighting it when I'm healthier. Since I've been in this gym, I haven't got sick once. And to me, that's worth it all. To be able to walk around, feel good, not be sick, not hurt every step you take, it was worth every drop of sweat that fell in this gym.
And for you, Wendy, did you have a family history of diabetes or hypertension?
Yes, it runs on my mom's side.
And so that was a big factor for you as well.
Yes, and I was actually on high blood pressure medicine and diabetic medicine myself. But after dropping the weight, I was actually able to come off of both. Yes.
So combined, how much weight have the two of you lost?
335 pounds together.
And one of the things that I've noticed in your gym, Scott, that's different than anyone else's are the little words of wisdom that you have on the wall for people who come into your gym.
Well, I tell my clients and everybody comes in here is that these sayings are on the wall, and just as much for me as it is for them. It's because sometimes when we wake up, we don't have the frame of mind. And so when I come in here sometimes at 4:30 in the morning and I turn the lights on, and maybe I don't feel like training, or I don't feel like I've got things in my life. Life don't stop just because you're a trainer. I turn the light on and I begin to read these things. And when I begin to see these things, I see Wendell, I see Wendy, I see other people that's in my vision. And it just, all that negative, all that, why do you do this? Why do you run a gym? Why do you put the hours in that you do? Why? All that whys go out. And today, while we sit at this table, there should never be a why asked again. It's because these two people right here, if I never helped anybody else, is a why enough for me to do what I do. And so, besides that, if you get bored, you can always read the saying. This is Wendy's here.
Sore today, strong tomorrow.
And Wendell, do you have one of these sayings that's on the wall?
I think my favorite is all I want is all you got. You know, and that's kind of what I've tried to do since I've been in here, is just try to give everything that I have every day.
Scott, what would you say about your two clients here?
Inspirational gets thrown around so much these days, but really is a love story here that's beyond telling. because to come somewhere and trust to tell somebody I'm giving you all and I'm breaking down and just being honest with you, and that's what they done to me. And that's the only way that you can grow, is that you have to become honest with yourself. And not everybody's being honest with themselves. They came to me and they was honest with me. And I will never forget that they laid their trust in my lap. Does it get long? Yes, it gets long, But if you just keep walking, I promise you that there will be a good place that we're going to come to, and you can spend the rest of your life there. I've told someone just the other day, I said, what if someone come up to you and offered you and say, I'll give you everything you want, as far as health-wise, look the way you want to, in a month, but you can only have it 6 months. What if I came up to you and told you, I can give you everything you want. It may take me 8 or 9 or maybe a year, but you know what? You can have it for the rest of your life. They said, that's no-brainer. Why then, why today are folks selling out for a shorter time that they're not going to stay there? They're not going to be able to stay there. And that's why I get such enjoyment and such thrill is with Wendy, and because they're not going to have to give it back. Every weight, they lost another 4 pounds apiece this week. So that weight will never come back on them again. And that's what's amazing. And with these two. And heart, oh my God, I can't even describe to see what kind of heart they have. I mean, injuries they overcome, things they don't feel good. Wendy's told me time I had to make her stop from working out. It's because she didn't feel good. And she said, I'm not a quitter. I said, no, we'll live to fight another day. I know you're not a quitter. Little things like that is that if I could bottle it up and give it as a shot just a little bit to other people, that, oh my God, and I see it in people's eyes. They're wanting help, but they just like say they don't know how to get started. And they're scared of failure. They're scared of failure. They're scared to try this, and they are not going to succeed. There's no such thing. There's no such thing in my gym as failing. If you come to the front door and you come in my gym, there's no such thing as failing, okay?
What were you at your highest weight when you began with Scott?
I started out at 471 pounds. Now I'm down to 290 pounds. I've lost 181 pounds, and I'm looking for that 200 mark, so I'm not done yet. I've got a little more to go, so I don't like to celebrate just quite yet. I've still got a little more work to do, but it feels really good to shed that 181 pounds. It makes a huge difference in everything, from not just being able to do basic normal things that most people take for granted every day. And I know not everybody knows this kind of stuff, but for somebody that's extremely obese, just putting on your shoes every day, things like that, it's a work to do, just to put on your shoes. And now the flexibility I have, losing all that weight, it's just opened up so many more doors for me. When I first started here, we were talking earlier about the fact that I couldn't even walk from the back of the building to the trash can and back. Well, a couple weeks ago, I ran 3 miles nonstop. And I'm not saying that to brag on myself. I'm just saying that for anybody out there that thinks that it's impossible, because trust me, there was a time when I first came in here, I told Scott, it's like, I'm not looking to be skinny. I just want to be able to move around again. I just want to be able to get to where I can do basic things that normal human beings should be able to do every day. And this is what I'll say about Scott. Scott took me from somebody that just wanted to be a person that could do normal everyday things to somebody that believed that they could go all the way. Because I didn't think I could. I'd never been there. You know, I've been heavy my whole life. I've been somewhat heavy, not this heavy, but I've always been a little heavy. But now I don't see an end. So I'm going to accomplish my goal weight. I'm going to do it soon. And then I'm going to see where I can do then. And what am I going to do next? Because like Scott alluded to earlier, when I first started here, I wasn't working. I could barely get out of bed. So pretty much my day was eating, sitting, and that was it. I was eating and sitting. That's all I was doing. Now, I don't just work out with Scott. I go for runs on my own. Me and Wendy are always out doing things. Before, we planned all our activities around what are we going to eat today. So we're going to have breakfast here, we're going to have lunch here, and then for dinner, I think we're going to go over here and have dinner. I mean, we would plan our whole day out around food.
With tearful eyes, Wendell describes Wendy and his newfound excitement for living life to its fullest. Again, Wendy Weaver.
Wendy asked me the other day, she's like, do you think sometime we could go up to the mountains and go hiking and go see if we could see a waterfall. And the fact that my wife thinks and knows that she can do that kind of stuff now, it's rewarding for me, because I saw her when she had a huge struggle, just like me, to do normal everyday things. She just would tell you, I'm not athletic, I'm not doing that kind of stuff. We went on cruises, we went to different places in the mountains, we went all over the place and never really been able to enjoy any of it because we couldn't get around and do the things we wanted to do. But for her to tell me, let's go up to the mountains and see, I want to go see a waterfall, that's just amazing to me. And that's what this has done. It's taken it from just, I want to lose some weight so I can get around here and there, to I want to see how far I can go. And now I just want to live. I want to see what life has to offer me now. You know, it's not just I went back to school, I'm running, we're going places, we're out doing things. We're not just planning our life around food anymore. It's about life now. It's about what inspires you, looking for new things to do. And to me, that was worth everything. I didn't expect it when I walked in here. I really didn't. I just thought it was going to be somewhere where I come to work out. I've been in gyms before, and I knew Scott. I knew him to a point. Now I know him a whole lot better, because believe me and him have walked some miles together in this gym.
Wendell says his new goal today is to inspire others to take the first step in their personal journey to healthier living.
Now my goal is for Scott is, if I can't do anything else for him, because I can't never thank him enough for what he's done. The inspiration he's given me, the motivation that he's tried to give me, I can't thank him for that. There's just not enough words. If anything, all I want to do is be validation. I just want to show people that if they come in here, and it doesn't have to be Scott, it has, whatever your journey is, whatever you find, you have to believe, find that person, put your whole heart into it, and you can accomplish anything that you set your mind to. But for Scott, I know he's, always trained, and maybe I might be the biggest client that he took on. At the time, he told me I was the biggest client that he's ever taken on. And I just want to be that person that shows that it's possible for anybody, no matter how big you are. Because a lot of people told me that the only way for me to get here was through surgery or that kind of thing, which I'm not knocking that. But for me, that wasn't the road I wanted to go. And I'm telling you, it's possible to do it the old-fashioned way, by watching what you eat, eating less, and working out.
When someone comes to you and asks you, Wendy, help me get to where you are today, how would you tell them to begin?
Just take that first step. Just do it. I mean, you're better for it. Just take that first step. Don't be afraid.
If you could say one word that encompasses your beloved bride sitting next to you, what would you say that word is to describe her strength?
Amazing.
And Wendy, what would you say?
Compassionate.
And I would add to that, unstoppable, for the both of you. Today I've been joined by Scott Green, who is the owner of Dacula Fitness, and he's also a fitness trainer, and two of his clients that have joined us today from Gwinnett County, Wendy and Wendy Weaver. To find out more information on Dacula Fitness or how you can get in touch with Scott, tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Follow me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Dacula Fitness. Or go to the website of Back in the Game. We're combined now, so you can follow me that way, or I'll have my number out there, 770-241-6856.
And thank you, Scott, for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
Wendell and Wendy, thank you so much for sharing your story and for giving our listeners the same inspiration that Scott gave you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We hope you've enjoyed this Community Life in Northeast Georgia featured podcast brought to you by WPPR HD Demarest, a Georgia Public and NPR affiliate radio station from the Piedmont College Demarest campus and the Swanson Center complex on 88.3 FM. To contact us, email wppr@piedmont.edu. And if you'd like to know more about local life and events in Northeast Georgia, join in on the conversation at Facebook at WPPR Demarest. I'm Candace Felice.